Hey YouTube, so wanted to do a review on the Casio CDP-S150, which is the previous version of the CDP-S160, which you can currently buy for $479 MSRP. I can't tell the difference between these two models. I don't know what they changed between the 150 and the 160. If I was in the market right now, I would probably consider them just about similar. Um, Maybe the action slightly different or something, but the specs seem exactly the same. So it may just be a rebranding, to give the illusion of progress. So take that for what it's worth. But when I was doing my research for this piano, which I purchased in February of 2022, there was very little information out there about this. Uh, all the YouTube videos I could find were just the generic, like, hey, this is awesome. Like, here's the features, here's the sound. No criticisms at all. So everything, that isn't great about it, I had to learn the hard way. So my goal is to pass that on to you guys, and hopefully you could make a better decision than I did. Because even though this is a great piano, and I don't think there's, especially for the price, I don't think that there's anything that's just like horribly, horribly wrong. I think you could do much better for the money. And so that's kind of, where I'm coming from with this. And I'll sort of explain why. So I'll start with the action. So the action, or the touch of a piano is, how the key mechanisms work, how they feel, how it feels to play. Um, what you generally want is something that's, very similar to an acoustic piano. You want to build, the finger strength and the muscle memory so that your piano learning is transferable to an acoustic piano if you need to perform, or if you, want to use one of those in the future. If you have a different approach, that's fine. There's some keyboard actions that are, more focused towards, being like a synthesizer or something like that. That's a different, application. But this has 88 keys, as you can see. They're weighted, and what that means is that it's not just a spring that's pushing the key back up, but it's an actual mechanism designed to simulate what a piano feels like. So the keys are heavier than they would be on a, quote unquote keyboard, something that doesn't have a weighted action. And they are graded. So what that means is that the keys at the lower end of the piano are heavier. They feel heavier to push down than the ones at the top, and that's because in an acoustic piano, it's a bigger hammer hitting a bigger string, versus the higher end. So roughly, I believe that this piano basically has three weights. I think like the bottom third, the middle third, and the top third. Those are like your three weights. So it's not like it's a different weight, for each individual key. That's pretty common for entry-level keyboard or pianos like this. At really high levels, multiple thousands of dollars. Sometimes you'll get, linear graded where each key is a different weight, but that's pretty rare. So I don't think that's a huge knock against it, but throwing it out there. I do find that the keys are a little heavy. They are heavier than the Yamaha P45, which is like the entry-level Yamaha. They're heavier than the Roland PHA4 action, which is found in the FP10 and the FP30 and the FP60. And then they're also heavier than Kawai actions that you'll find in like the ES110. So those are kind of like the competitors for this from Yamaha, Roland, and Kawai, which are kind of like the big three. So it's a heavy action. I didn't think I minded that until I started trying to play some sort of faster pieces that had like a lot of, kind of quick types of, note patterns like that. And I find that it's just harder to do on this piano than like a Yamaha P45 that I use in a practice room at a music school. So I don't know. Is it like maybe training with a weight belt and, it's easier to then go play on those actions because you're used to like a harder one? Like maybe, but I personally, I find that this action is maybe holding me back a little bit. But I think for what this piano seeks to do at the, $400 to $500 price range, it's an entry level piano. It's for like a young child who's just getting started, or an adult learner who's never played before, like myself. So maybe it's okay. What I really feel like is all of those pianos I mentioned from other manufacturers are better than this. So it's not that this is necessarily bad, it's that those have a better action. And I think the action is super important. So that's, I guess the key surfaces I'll mention real quick. It's like a matte finish. I actually think it's really well done. I really like the key surface. I have no complaints about that. Like the Yamaha P45, is just like a shiny, completely smooth polished surface, and some people don't like that as much. I don't really mind that either, but I really like the key surface on this. I think it feels really well done for the price. And then, I mean, I have not had any problems with it. It's very durable. I've been playing on this, let's say 2 to 8 hours a week since February, and at the time we're recording right now, it's December, so 10 months. It's held up. I don't know. If you used it for years and years, it might not. The other thing I don't love about this action that I'll talk about is just the keys are kind of, in addition to being heavy, they're kind of slow to return relative to some other pianos. That's kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about like fast passages, where you really need to do multiple presses on the same key. Like, I'm missing a lot of presses here, right? Because the key just doesn't come up fast enough. So, okay, that's what I have to say about action. So next thing I'll talk about is the sound. What can I say that's good about the sound of this piano? I mean, it's definitely trying to sound like a grand piano. It's not, trying to sound like a synthesizer. It's a grand piano simulated sound. You're just hearing this through the microphone here, so you're not going to get crazy good quality or anything like that. And I don't have the line outs connected or any of that. There's other videos that do that. It's basic. It's fine. It is what it is. But I do have a lot of complaints about it, and this is actually where I really feel like this piano falls short, especially compared to the competition. So the first thing is the dynamic range. So what I mean by that is like how quiet you can play compared to how loud you can play. So there are 3 volumes that this can play. So, they're touch sensitive keys, meaning, lighter you press versus, you press it really hard, you get a really loud sound. This has 3 levels, so I'll show you. See how it just jumped? And it just jumped. Those are the 3 sounds. So, you push it really soft, you get 1. You do medium, you get 2. And then you press it as hard as you can, you get 3. There's 3 sounds you can make with this. That's super bad. Like, as soon as you get into any kind of dynamics where you're playing music that has passages that are piano and then there's a crescendo and you need to get louder, I mean, you can't get louder. Like, you can play harder and you're not going to hear a difference, and it messes up like your like intuition for how you're supposed to play. Like, you should feel a difference no matter how gradually you're increasing the pressure that you're putting on the keys. And when you only have those 3 steps, it's impossible to learn dynamic control. Maybe my top thing that I don't like about this piano. I haven't had a lot of time on the Yamaha Roland and Kawais. I think they have more than 3 volume levels. I suspect they have a lot more, like where you might not even be able to notice what I'm showing you there. I could be wrong. Do your research, but this piano, in my opinion, just because of that, is like inappropriate for anybody who has been, taking lessons for a few months. Like, once you get the basics down and you want to start working on, dynamic technique, you can't do it. Like, you just can't. So, I really find that to be bad. Another thing that I'll say is, so like the sustain of the notes, so how long the notes ring out after you play them, is very short on this piano. So I'll demonstrate that. So it's almost gone, but it drops down very quickly. Like, from when you play, like, it just gets very quiet very fast. And I'm using the sustain pedal right now to show that, but I find that will hold you back in developing pedal technique. So when you are playing passages where there's a lot, maybe going on the left hand, on a acoustic piano or a different digital piano, if you held down the pedal that long, those notes might start to sound muddy. And you'd want to get that feedback so you could develop, I need to be using like less pedal. I need to be letting go of the pedal to silence those notes, and then I can press it again to, start the sustain again. I've played the same song on this piano as on other pianos, or this piano connected to a virtual instrument, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And I can hold down the pedal for the entire song on this piano, and it doesn't sound that bad because the notes decay so fast that you never get it sounding muddy. Whereas on any other piano or piano sound, those notes sustain much longer. So I mean, sustain is a good thing. Like, 9-foot concert grand pianos you buy for $200,000. One of the things they're known for is the notes sustained for like minutes. But just in terms of using this as like a learning tool, developing pedal technique is really tough on this piano because of that. So that's another thing, kind of like the velocity or the dynamic range that I was talking about. It's fine to learn for your first 3-6 months, something like that. But once you start trying to do pedal and kind of learn that, this is going to hold you back, and it might even hurt you because you're going to get used to doing pedal a certain way and then not be able to transfer that to other instruments. The speakers on this are like pretty poor. That's not surprising, right? There's some tone ports right here, and then the big speakers are facing backwards. Nothing wrong with that. They're just small speakers. They're not great. They don't sound that great. What are you going to do, right? It's a cheap piano. It's not a big deal. I don't really count that against it too much. It's serviceable, but it's not going to like fill a room. It doesn't sound great. There is a headphone port. That's nice. It's on the back of the piano, which is not nice. So you have to sort of reach back there, plug in your headphones. If anything is plugged into that, it shuts down the speakers. So that's something I wish that I'd known. It's like a super annoying quality of life type of thing. I tried plugging just like a headphone extender, so like a male cable in the back, a female cable on the other end that I could just let hang so that it was easier to plug my headphones in and out instead of having to reach behind the piano. But even with that extender plugged in, it shuts down the speakers. There's no way to get the speakers to play when there's anything plugged into that port. So you're going to be fishing behind the piano, reaching to find that every time you want to use headphones, if you want to use that. The sound does sound way better through headphones. So if you do use headphones, the quality of the sounds are way better, but what I said about sustain still applies. What I said about dynamic range still applies. Those things aren't better with headphones. I almost exclusively use this with headphones because the onboard speakers just drive me crazy and I feel like I can't hear like any nuance at all. But yeah, there's no line out or aux out or anything like that. The only way to get audio out of this is the speakers or through the headphone port. Something I learned the hard way, if you want to use the headphone port to get the sound into speaker, like other speakers, like monitors, or an audio interface or something like that, it is putting out a stereo signal. You cannot get a mono signal out of this. So if you want to plug it into like an audio interface, you need to use a 3.5 millimeter cable that goes to like your 2/4 inch, and then you would use like 2 interfaces on your audio interface for the left and the right channel. There's no way to get mono out of this. So if you just do like a 3.5 to 1/4 inch, like 1/4 inch, and plug that in, you're just going to hear like only the left channel, and it sounds really bad. So I had to figure that out the hard way. But yeah, you can technically use that as a line out. It works okay. Probably better if you connect it to like an audio interface than if you try to connect it directly to like studio monitors or something like that. Okay, so then just kind of general features. You can read this on their website, or other videos. But I think I have a couple comments on some of this stuff. So it does have USB MIDI out, which is like the huge saving grace for this because that lets you connect it to a computer and use a virtual instrument, or sometimes called a VST. So like some examples of those are like Piano Tech. If you want to play with that, Piano Tech has a free trial. It works great. It's PIANOTEQ. And what that basically does is your piano is basically just acting like an input device, and it's sending data to your computer. So it's like a mouse or a keyboard. And then your computer is taking that input, generating the piano sound, and playing it to you. So you can bypass everything bad I said about the sound by using a virtual instrument, and it makes the piano completely serviceable for everything. The action is the only thing at that point that could be holding you back, and the action's not that bad. It's the sounds that are the problem. So I use a VST exclusively with this piano. It's kind of a pain. Sometimes you just want to sit down and play. You don't want to like boot up your computer, plug in your, cables, start your VST, but it does totally save it because it's offloading like 90% of the functionality to a computer that you can control. So USB MIDI is great. The USB also lets you connect it to a phone or a tablet and then use Casio's app. All Casio's app lets you do is control all the things that you have to do by holding function and pressing a key otherwise. So, it's nice, I guess, but because you have to use a cable, there's no Bluetooth at all on this keyboard. I tried it once. I was like, okay, that's cool, and then I never used it again. But it's there. It's a feature that I wasn't really aware of until I got the piano. So calling that out. The pedal that it comes with is like that garbage plastic switch that you should immediately throw out and buy a real pedal. You want to buy a pedal that, I don't think I can show you the one that I have, but if you Google sustain pedal, you'll see it. Like a big, long metal pedal that looks like what's on a real piano. That's fine though. Every keyboard comes with garbage pedal. Like nobody sends you a good pedal. So not a big deal with that. But you can connect, a sustain pedal to it. So that's necessary. This runs on batteries. There's not that many 88 key weighted digital pianos that do that. If that's something you're looking for, this is probably a great choice because there's really just not that many. I've never done it, but it can do it, and that's a cool thing. One of the things that you can change via the keys here is the touch response. That does not fix the problems, unfortunately. I have played with it a lot, so I'll demonstrate that. So you hold the function button, and then you press this key, which is labeled touch response. So you can kind of hear, right now it's off, so every key is full volume right now, no matter what I do. And then on the low, this is like the lightest touch, and then medium. And then on the highest, I can't even really get to that highest volume because it's so, just muted. So I think I keep it on that first setting. But I just wanted to show that. It's got 4 settings, really only 3 if you consider that one of them shuts it off. That's like unplayable. Everything is just going to be a forte if you use that. It's got 3 touch curves, and 2 of them are like unplayable to me. So it doesn't fix the problems. I wanted to call that out just because you might be hearing about the problems with the dynamic range and think, oh, well, you can fix that with touch curve. You can fix it on a VST. VSTs let you exactly specify your velocity curve, and it's awesome. So that does not fix it here. It's got reverb. I mean, when the speakers are as bad as they are, adding reverb is just weird. Reverb is like echo. It's supposed to simulate like a large room. So this is reverb off. 1, 2. So you can maybe kind of hear there's some echo there. Now it's off again. So I don't know why you'd use that. If you're recording or something, it's nice to add a little bit of reverb to make it feel like a concert. But if you're recording, use a VST. Don't use the built-in sound on this. And then you get all kinds of really good reverb options. It's got a metronome. That seems like it would be great, but it's really janky and hard to use. So metronome on. Okay. So if I want to change the tempo, use these plus and minus. Right? So it's kind of hard to pick the speed that you want. I never use it. I hate it. I either use one on my phone or I go old school and I use one of these. So I feel like the metronome is just poorly done. I feel like if there's a metronome, I want to be able to tell it like 80, like give me 80 beats per minute. There are numbers on here I just noticed, and I tried real quick typing in like 80, it didn't work. I don't think you can use the numbers to specify your metronome. I think it's just plus or minus. So I kind of don't like that. But that's an easy problem to fix. It's also got a recorder, which is nice. It works great. I have no complaints with the recorder. It's a nice feature to have on something this cheap. So you record, you play, and you can play it back. If you're learning a piece and you want to like practice left hand only and right hand only, you could practice the left hand, record that, and then play it and play the right hand over it. So it makes that a little bit more fun. So it's not so tedious to practice just one hand at a time. And it's good to listen to yourself when you play. You'll hear things playing back or recording that you didn't hear when you were playing it live. So that's nice. Okay, so before this gets too long, what are the conclusions here? So I think that out of the box, this piano is good to get a new student through their first few months. If it's a child, maybe through the first year or two, depending on how fast they progress. For myself, an adult learner, um, I would say a couple months, and you're probably going to be running up against the limitations. If you're willing to use a virtual instrument, you could use it indefinitely. I mean, the action is not that bad. I personally want to move on and get a better action. Um, but if you're going to use a VST, that kind of opens it up, but that's also kind of bypassing like 90% of what the piano is doing. So um, that is what it is. What I really think the important takeaway is if you're spending, I mean, these are the S160 is $479 now, MSRP. For that money, you can get a Yamaha P45. Those are $550 MSRP, and you can get them. The Amazon exclusive version is called the P71. It's the exact same piano, but they have their own number on it, and it's $499. So for 20, I mean, so I'm probably comparing MSRPs to street prices. So maybe you could still get this for $400. So $100 more than that gets you the P45. I think that's worth every penny. The P45 sounds better, the action is better, the sustain is there, the dynamic range is there. I practice on a P45 sometimes, and it's a much better piano. It's not great, doesn't have a ton of features. It compares very well with this, except with none of the problems, in my opinion. The Roland FP10 is a great comparison to this, and you can actually get the Roland FP10 at Costco now in a package that includes the stand, the bench, headphones, I think. It might even have a real sustain pedal. I don't remember, or it's that garbage one. But I mean, I have a stand for this Casio. That was like $150. I had to buy a bench. That's $100. That all comes in a package at Costco for the Roland FP10, and it's regularly $699. When doing my research for this, I noticed it's $550 right now until Christmas. So if you're watching this in the next 2 weeks, maybe that's helpful. They market it as the FRP1, but it's identical to the Roland FP10. That's a great, I would say, better choice than this. I don't know if you can get the FP10 in the United States by itself, but the FRP1 for $700, when you consider the stand and the bench, if those are things you're going to be buying anyway, that's a phenomenal deal. I think the Quai ES120 is like more than these, so that may not be a good comparison. Personally, if I was starting over, I would have bought a Yamaha P45 or P71, and I think it would be just a better purchase. So that's pretty much what I have to say about this. It's not that it's bad, it's just that there's better things out there for the same money. And for what it's worth, I'm not like ragging on Casio. I think they have great pianos in like the Privia line and up. Some of their like digital home pianos are great. I think that this bottom end like CDP line is not quite there yet. That's my opinion. So hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, welcome to place a comment and I will probably answer it. Yeah, happy shopping.